it's Maya, and I'm taking over the show. I'm here to make her take me to Disneyland because I am so cute. The show starts...
No! This child sitting next to me, my beloved niece, who's now in California with me for the very first time, she's never seen the ocean. She is here and got in at like 2 a.m. That is 4 local time. You were up later than I was in Miami all weekend on a bachelorette party. You've barely slept. You've got your nails going on.
Okay.
And you want to go to Disneyland.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. You're right. Nothing. And we have lots of news to get to, so we better get to it, right?
Okay. Now, why are we talking about the ocean?
Because it's a good question. I think a lot of my producers are saying the same thing. You're going to come back on the show today to talk about your top three Disney princesses. And let me tell you, this list is it went rogue. It's not what I thought it would be, but we're gonna go. You go have some breakfast. She ate cold pizza for breakfast, like a champion, a true girl after my own heart. You go, and I'm gonna get some work done. Okay?
Just stop talking about the pizza I ate.
Okay, sounds good. I love you. We'll talk to Maya, everybody, in just a little bit. Wow, so I'm getting ready to come on the air. I haven't slept at all because no flight takes off or lands on time ever. My family is in town. And as I'm getting ready to sit down to do the show, putting a little sparkly eyeshadow on little Maya here, we get this anthology, I'm going to say, from Lamar Jackson. It has been really busy as far as the sports world is concerned, but let's get right into it with Lamar. This is breaking news, courtesy of Lamar. He's not giving it to some media member, pundit, anybody. He takes things into his own hands, as he always has. And he started by thanking his fans. In regards to my future plans, as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization, for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. And everyone that's met me or been around me know I love the game of football, and my dream is to help a team, as he goes on, to help a team win a Super Bowl. You were all great, but I had to make a business decision that was best for my family and I. No matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I'll continue to be close to my fans of Baltimore, Flock Nation, and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again. Okay, that's his tweet, and we are hearing lots of things that he requested a trade that happened back on March 1st. I'm not good at dates, but I'm pretty sure it's the 27th today. We all know there's been some criticism of management and how things have gone from inside that locker room, and now we are trying to wait and see what is going to happen. Now, the owners' meetings are happening in real time at the same time, and I just saw the tremendous and intrepid reporter, Kimberly Martin, say that Mr. Harbaugh was talking about it, and we have him because a swarm of reporters, of course, they're grabbing their orange juice and their bagels, and they're going, where is Harbaugh's table? And here he is in the immediate aftermath of this.
I haven't seen the tweet. It's an ongoing process. I'm following it very closely, just like everybody else is here, and looking forward to a resolution. I'm excited, thinking about Lamar all the time, thinking about him as our quarterback. We're building our offense around that idea, and I'm just looking forward to getting back to football.
Okay, so here's a couple of things. And he says, I love Lamar Jackson. Well, you should love a guy who's, a former MVP. It just becomes clear. It seems obvious. These two sides are just on completely different pages. And they have been for a while, and it's sort of gone through it, and it hasn't been as quiet as possible. And there's a lot of talk. We've had everybody on the show. Brandon Marshall, I ran into him yesterday at the airport. He's, of course, we're still talking about Lamar Jackson, the franchise tag. We're talking to a potential future Hall of Famer, Dwight Freeney, about it. We're talking about it with Patrick Queen, and whether or not he shows up for his team. We're all this drama around him, and you sort of like that Lamar wants to come out and say things for himself, but it's obvious it's not going to happen. And to be honest, and there's a whole other side as we'll break this down and bring in Hamilton, with the Aaron Rodgers thing, where Jets fans are going to see this and they're going to say, this is why you don't want time to wait. You don't want get married. You don't want a long engagement, right, Hamilton?
Great analogy there. Appreciate that. But yeah.
Okay, so what do we know? Because this to me, this came out of nowhere. It was always potential. He wants to force a trade. What else am I missing?
Yeah, so as we found out, everything that happened on Friday night was very strange. The league sending out a memo to teams that a representative named Ken Francis was reaching out on behalf of Lamar to negotiate a contract. Lamar said that that wasn't true, and revealed some type of fitness equipment that the two had been working on together. So we don't really know what the truth is there. Obviously, these teams are nowhere close on a deal. The sides are nowhere close on a deal right now. And I don't think anybody saw this coming today, though, although with all the twists and turns we've seen in this story, I guess it's we should have been ready.
It's true. And so you're going to hear from, hopefully, players, people coming out and talking about this and addressing it. He's a guy that many players rally around. Everyone roots for Lamar Jackson, I think, universally. And here we have, Marlon Humphrey, long time, elite level defensive piece for this team, saying, handle your business. We always hear, though. So it's sort of, I really thought he was going to go to Indianapolis and it was going to be over. That's what I thought was going to happen. And now we have, he's still under this non-exclusive franchise tag situation, trying to get teams to make bids for him, teams that might not want to put that out there, even if they're interested in that, because it creates a lot of hype, it creates a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations if you're a quarterback-needy team. And this is now the situation. So I guess things just got real. There's nothing else to really say about it. You have to see how it turns out. And what, it's disappointing, I think, just because the level of talent he has, it shouldn't be this hard, but it happens in every business.
Yeah. And I guess if you're the Ravens too, at this point, do you want to rush and trade him? He can go sign an offer sheet anytime he wants with another team, and you get those 2 first-round picks in return. So unless you're getting the sense that no team out there is going to sign him to an offer sheet, I guess that would be the only scenario in which you make a trade at this point. If you're not getting the feeling he's going to sign an offer sheet, you're not going to get those 2 first-round picks. You approach some teams about getting a deal done, and the return might not be as great as those 2 first-round picks, but at least you still get something back and you get a resolution to this situation if you're that convinced Lamar isn't going to play for you next year. So it makes things a little bit messier, and we'll see how this all goes down.
And they have Huntley as their backup, of course. They have Anthony Brown. Yep. I believe that's it, right?
Yeah, as of right now, I believe that's it. And obviously, we'll see what they can get as a return. As you mentioned, the Colts, if they get a deal done with the Colts, maybe they get that 4th overall pick. They start over with the quarterback on his rookie contract. So I would think that's probably the direction that they would want to go if they are forced to move on from Lamar. But we'll see.
They're on totally different pages, and it got bad, and then it got worse. And, if we're hearing anything, it's not an organization that sort of lets stuff fly like that. I find culpability on both sides in this. The fact that it takes this long, it should never be like this. There's a going rate. There's a thing, and the agent thing plays large in it for me. I know it shouldn't. And, I ask every person that comes on our show their thoughts on it, and every person says that having there hasn't been one person over the weeks of this that has said doesn't need an agent. That's not what it is. No one's saying that. Even as Brandon Marshall was one of his biggest supporters. Yeah, having an agent, there is some separation it creates. There's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I just want him to get paid, have a chance at a Super Bowl, and have a chance to show people who think that he can't stay on the field, people who think that he can't throw, people all of those things. But yeah. And with the Ravens side, I had this thing that in my head, I'm they're going to bring DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to make him happy. That's clearly not the case.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like John Harbaugh's really committed to him based on the statements that we've heard. He wants him to be there. He wants to build around him. Obviously, it's not all up to him because there's the front office side to this. So that's where things get really complicated is when this type of money gets brought into the equation and you start talking about how much of it is going to be guaranteed. That's where it seems like the biggest separation is. But yeah, I mean, if they are able to work things out with him, I think they do go all in. I think Harbaugh is going to push for them to go all in and do everything they can to support him.
In regard to his future plans, he made a trade request on March 2nd. So now Harbaugh's going to get peppered with questions. We're going into April. It's full blast draft talk. And the AFC North needs to figure itself out. So we'll keep our eyes on this. I hate it. I hate that this is how we're starting. I'd much rather talk about cold pizza in Disneyland. And so we're going to talk about some other NFL headlines. We appreciate you, Hamilton. I didn't see all of those. And he really laid it out there with several tweets, I'm saying. I didn't read all of it until right now. So now let's sort of transition and make a little left turn to another huge thing that happened this weekend. Seahawks safety Quadre Diggs put on his old NFL insider hat, and he broke the news that our guy, and you know we love him, we stand so hard for him on the show, Bobby Wagner, back to Seattle. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it could happen. It's a one-year deal. This is Conrad, our line producer, said he'll go back to Seattle, and I go, not a chance. He's probably spurned by them. No, here it is. He was with their rivals, of course, in LA. He's still playing at such a high level. This was the position group with free agency I was most interested in between him and Levante David, these guys who played at an elite level so long that are into their 30s. But this is a player that was a second-team All-Pro last year with the Rams. He's going to help that young defense tremendously. But more than that, I love seeing the kumbaya moment. I have to tell you, I love seeing it. I reached out to him and gave him all my congratulations. He seems very excited. This is a future Hall of Famer, bona fide, and it's between him and an organization that gave 10 seasons of blood, sweat, and tears to, and leadership, and, you know, bringing out the best in people and being quiet when everyone was loud all of the time. Like, I give him credit for that. And a Lombardi trophy, too. That's what happened here. So, you know, we've gotten so used to and sort of normalized seeing great players change teams at late stages in their careers. But there is still something so special about being a legend associated with one franchise. It's rare. It doesn't happen. It's like when you meet somebody and they're like, I've been working here for 40 years. Like, it doesn't happen anymore. Nobody stays in the same job for that long. So it should always be appreciated. And let's not forget that at this point last year, it looked like there was some serious damage between the two sides because the Seahawks decided to part ways with Bobby, which we all saw coming. I remember when that injury happened, I said, this is his last game as a Seahawk. He said, crazy part about all this, I played there for 10 years and I didn't even hear it from them that I wasn't coming back. I thought this was scorched earth. Burn bridges, see you later. His signing with a division rival, that wasn't exactly a coincidence in my head. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to face the Seahawks twice a year, and it factored in that. And in those games, it meant something to him. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what sort of darkness retreat they went on. Maybe he can suggest something to Eric DaCosta and Lamar Jackson that might, you know, reconcile some things. But, you know, I would imagine seeing the way and operating the way Pete Carroll is, but seeing the way and hearing the way Pete Carroll talked about Wagner made him realize that the franchise truly appreciates him. Listen to Pete. This is back at the beginning of December, end of November last year, before they had to go up against B-Wags for that first of two.
Oh, he's been so consistent for so long, and he's a terrific athlete at the spot, and a, you know, excellent tackler, and all the diagnostics and all that stuff. He's got it all, but it's his consistency that has been remarkable. That he's always there and he always battles, and it's the only way we've ever known him.
What have you missed, or what's different without him in the defense?
I've missed everything about him. You know, there's no replacing him. He was a unique, one-of-a-kind guy.
Genuinely loves him. It was obviously a money thing. They went on and had a great year, and now he goes back there. I'm just happy that, you know, and I'm sure all the 12s, I'd love to hear from you out there, is grateful. This is one of the best players in the history of your franchise going back to put that Seahawks uniform once again. So we all know that number 54 is going to be up in the rafters at Lumen Field one day, but you'd love to see it happen on good terms. You love to see it, especially when all this other stuff is running amok in the NFL. And they're this 26th ranked defense I'm seeing. So he's going to help hopefully get them into form for another playoff push in 2023. NFC West is so bizarro weird going into this season. Elsewhere in the NFC West, we heard new Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon talk about DeAndre Hopkins and that situation for the first time. So here he is with Steve Weish of NFL Media at that annual league meeting, and here's what he had to say. I'm operating that he's a Cardinal right now. So I'm looking forward to getting in the meeting room and on the field with him and seeing where it can go. I just know he's an elite player, being a defensive guy. I had to go up against him a couple times in the division. The challenges that he presents I'm excited to get to work with him. Listen, we've seen plenty of coaches say, he's still on our team and leave it at that in those types of situations. Like, yeah, he's on the roster, he's here, he's good. You know, and then the next day they're on the block and you can read between the lines. I did think it was interesting that Gannon chooses not to do that here. He goes into detail and is really emphatic and above and beyond with his praise. Now, I don't know Gannon that well, so I don't know what his style is or like the experience level of that, what the lost in translation of media. What I'm reading is that sure, maybe he's just being respectful and giving him due praise, but it could be, and of course there's trade partners where he wants to say like, hey, they might keep him, they're playing the leverage game. I watched Succession last night, I know how this works. Or it could just be a young coach being earnest and speaking honestly, and a guy who's probably like, I would really like to find a way to keep DeAndre Hopkins around. So we've been operating for a while under the assumption that it's a foregone conclusion Hopkins is getting dealt with that hefty cap hit he's going to carry into next season. It is a lot, but if you're the Cardinals at this stage, it's time to think twice. Unless Nuke makes it clear he doesn't want to be there, it doesn't really make sense to just ship him off anymore. So the Cardinals have cleared a ton of cap space, right? They have $23 million worth right now. So that's the fourth most in the league to keep spending. They can take the cap hit. And if you're their GM, who spent the last 3 seasons as the director of player personnel for the Tennessee Titans, you saw firsthand what it's like. PTSD, Marissa, I'm sorry, Marissa actually loved it, getting rid of A.J. Brown because as he moved from the Tennessee Titans to the Eagles, and how it can drastically doom you and sink you to not have that. So if you want to build around Kyler Murray when he's back and healthy and compete in the NFC West and find a way to sort of make it work, the receiver position, doesn't hold a ton of value out there. We talked about this a lot. And I think DeAndre Hopkins is a different level of special. Rare air, deserves the money. And if the Cardinals trade him, they may be essentially punting on the season, to be honest. It's a tough pill to swallow because Kyler, this is his last year. This is the last chance they're going to get him at any sort of value. His cap hit, guys, goes from 16 to 51 million in 2024. So the more I think about this, the more I think the Cardinals have to make it work with D-Hop. Or they're the ones sitting on the clock with the number 1 overall pick next year, starting from scratch. Cardinals fans, how are you feeling about that? That's the most negative I've been on a team in a while. But if they don't work it out with him, with the window, with Kyler, I don't know what happens. But maybe, these young head coaches prove me wrong all the time, so we'll see. All right, we're going to take a short break here. We have Lamar to the Colts. There were rumors about Lamar landing in New England. There's all sorts of things going on. We got Kari Thompson on the show next. We are a month away from the draft. Wow, that's insane. Apparently, Lamar said, I'd like a trade. Back on March 2nd, he sent out several tweets talking about it. So I think we're going to get to some reactions from some of the players. Oh, Pancake Pat, long time no talk. He says, we love you, Lamar. Okay, Marlon Humphrey saying, we're good. Go figure out your business. Oh, Mekhi Becton. This is back from the college days, of course, blocking for him, the stud quarterback and the NFL MVP. That's what we have to call him. Remember, don't forget that he's an MVP we're talking about. And here's Patrick Queen, friend of our show, who maybe we'll have to dig up and sort of start reading the lines better between these comments that anybody has made about Lamar that knows him or is close to him going into what's going on here. Where will he end up? He wants a trade. We were hearing Colts. There's a bit of a New England spin to this as well, but there's a lot going on with the Patriots. So we bring in a guy who covers them for WEEI in Boston. He hosts a podcast called First and Foxborough. It's a great name for a great podcast. Kari Thompson, how are you?
Doing wonderfully. How are you doing, Kay?
I'm so good. It's good to see you. So I'm sitting down. I'm making my coffee. I'm trying to figure out how to use the Nespresso machine in this house because I've never used it before. And I sit down and these tweets happen. And I go, wait, what? March 2nd? I didn't know. I knew it wasn't pretty between them, but you'd think something would get done amicably. And now this. Before we get into the New England part of it, what are your thoughts about this, forcing a trade and what's going on right now with Lamar?
Well, it seemed like it was starting to trickle out a little bit with this mystery person that's gone around contacting teams saying that he's ready to move on from the Ravens, some unaccredited guys, not an agent. But, I've heard from other people who cover other teams that say he's not budging off the 5 years, $230 million fully guaranteed. And if he's not going to do that and the Ravens are 100% not willing to invest in that, then it sounds like they are headed for this breakup. Now, that being said, I don't know that any team is going to want to pay that necessarily. He might have to come down in terms of years and overall value and maybe settle on something that has a very high average, like 3 years, 150 million guaranteed or something around there. But I mean, there aren't a lot of teams with that kind of liquid cash laying around. But if there are, I would be surprised if more of them aren't in on Lamar.
It's really well said by you. And then there's the New England Patriots of it all. That's the team you cover inside and out. We appreciate you taking some time here because they've been rumored as one of these potential landing spots for Lamar. Even Devin McCourty, he was on his old friend Chris Long's podcast advocating for the Patriots to reel him in. And this is after Devin McCourty was on my show saying that Mac is the guy. He came on and he was like, Mac's the best thing since Tom Brady. So it's all very interesting. But I think there is this universal, especially with the players who know how it is, they know the business side of it. They want the best. They want him to get paid. Everyone wants him to have a good home, to be happy. Do you think that this is a move that Bill and company would, could, or should make?
I don't know that it's any of them, honestly, because look, Bill Belichick has been unabashed in his love for Lamar Jackson, what he thinks he is, the fact that he's an MVP caliber player. Everyone knows this. I mean, he won an MVP. But the Patriots don't typically go in that big on, free agent signings or trades to that kind of, not just the first round picks value where you got to give up at least 2, but then you're talking about, again, $200+ million guaranteed. That just doesn't feel like a Patriots move. Then again, they are exactly the kind of team that just when you don't think they're going to do something, they pull off a surprise. I personally don't see it. I think that I'm also more in a camp of let the third-year quarterback that you still have him for cheap for a couple of years do his thing. If you think that you can get more out of him, build the roster around him and do it that way. There have been plenty of recent teams that have shown that you can do that. The Philadelphia Eagles being one of them. So I think the Patriots will probably stick with that.
And there is the Mac Jones of it all to consider, and even being linked to Lamar. There is aggregate drama and pressure and mind things that happen when you do something like that. So if you're the Patriots and you know that, and even giving an offer sheet and allowing the Ravens the chance to match that, which they probably would, that is going to have, I think, a negative and uncomfortable effect on the quarterback that they have that has a lot to prove. And that could somehow hinder his development. That's like a risk you if you only want to do that if you're going to get him, And if there's a chance that you don't, you can see it as business and you can be mature. I don't know that I've seen enough of that out of Mac Jones to think that he would be unaffected by that. You're talking about getting the most out of this third-year quarterback. Devin McCourty, obsessed with Mac Jones. Some guys love him. They're obviously bringing in more pieces for him. Talk to me about the importance, in your opinion, and what you're hearing, what you know, about Bill O'Brien and his impact on Mac.
So Bill O'Brien has shown, obviously he's worked with Deshaun Watson and helped him become, an MVP caliber player himself, top 10 quarterback in the league. But he's also worked with guys like, Brandon Weeden and Matt Schaub, guys that are a little bit more in line with what Mac Jones' skill set is. And he's been able to get guys like that to the playoffs. And I think that Mac Jones is probably better than some of those guys that he had early on in his tenure with the Texans. Now, I think one thing that maybe should be talked about with Bill O'Brien is that he's worked with some really good receivers, both in the pros and in college. And what they have around Mac Jones right now isn't exactly the cream of the crop. It's fine like it was last year, but it's not elite. So I think that there's a chance that Bill O'Brien is going to get involved here and say, hey, look, okay, we're going to help teach him the game the right way and get the details on point, things that he didn't have last year, put him in a competent offense that was more what he succeeded in his first year. But we also got to get some weapons in here, guys that are going to be dynamic, that are going to create yards after the catch, that are going to go make your quarterback look good. So I think it's more than just the X's and O's of, oh yeah, Bill O'Brien will be competent from that perspective. But he might also bring in like, hey, I know what it takes to run a good NFL offense, and we need more than what we got right now, even though they have made a couple additions.
I mean, their offense has been 22nd in total offense since 2020. I will say, if I'm a Patriots fan, and I know that fan base very well, I'm probably better than most of them, and hearing, in the same sentence as, no offense to Schaub and Weeden, when Lamar Jackson is potentially out there, to be reeled in on the end of a deep sea fishing rod up there in the Boston. That's very attractive, and I'm not super inspired by hearing those quarterbacks' names being mentioned. But I would be inspired if, like you're saying, they brought in a guy like, I don't know, one that has a lot of connective tissue to the new offensive coordinator. There's been smoke around DeAndre Hopkins. Is this something the Pats need to make happen to get the offense on track?
I don't know that it's something that you need to do, but it wouldn't hurt. I mean, and there's also the idea that, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins has had some big years with Bill O'Brien, but there's also the way that things ended up with the Texans, where maybe that's a beef that hasn't quite been quashed. I've heard some people suggest that they could probably have a good working relationship and be fine. I do think that if you're not going to do that, and if you're not going to pull the trigger on a Jerry Jeudy trade or bring somebody in from the outside, I think that's a situation where wide receiver could be a sneaky position the Patriots look for in round one, where I kind of think of it as they're going to build more in the trenches. But there are a couple of guys there, including Zay Flowers, who worked out with the Patriots at the Shrine Bowl and was kind of running some of those Wes Welker, Julian Edelman routes out there. I just went to his pro day on Friday and saw him operating. I think that that's a dark horse that you could look at where maybe it's not your big number one receiver who's going to run down the field mossing everybody, but he is the kind of guy that could open up your offense in the middle of the field and take it to the house on any play.
I just feel like with the wide receivers, you can go in the draft like you're talking. You were at that pro day. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy's an all-pro and has 1,000 yards his rookie season and 70 catches, that slot receiver that you're talking about, because that's what we expect now. Because of the way our game has evolved, because of the way they come in from college, like you can find a Chris Olave in the draft in a hurry. You can find a lot of Garrett Wilsons. There's a lot of depth there. So these wide receivers, you're seeing it play out in free agency. They are not getting the price tag. They're going in the way of the running back a little bit as far as the market and the value and the scarcity when it comes is not there. But DeAndre Hopkins is such a unique talent and he's at an elite level. But I would not grab him unless I was a really expensive cap hit piece away from winning another Super Bowl. And I think we both know, I don't know how honest New England's being about this, but we both know that this probably is not the year for that. Maybe if they bring in Lamar Jackson and DeAndre Hopkins, maybe if things break right. But that division is really tough. The AFC East isn't getting any easier post Brady. The Jets, the Dolphins, they've improved their roster, their front offices, everything top to bottom. Have the Patriots done enough to keep up?
Largely, no. I'm going to keep it real with you. They seem to be of the frame of mind that, hey, we brought in Bill O'Brien to make our offense competent. And they were a competent offense away from being a playoff team last year. That's really all it was. I mean, they won 8 games with that craziness that they had going on with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge running the thing. So they're probably saying to themselves, look, let's keep it the way it was, more or less. Add a couple of pieces like Mike Gesicki and Juju Smith-Schuster that we think can help us. Do some stuff in the draft. And by the way, we have Bill O'Brien now who's got a competent offensive scheme. And there we should be good. But I've been of the opinion from the beginning that Bill O'Brien was never going to be enough by himself. Not if you want to do something meaningful in the postseason. Because, look, you still have such a major talent gap with the Bills. The Bills beat the Patriots one time last year with their hand tied behind their back. And then later on in the year, beat them with special teams, which I think has to hurt Bill Belichick, just down in his gut, the fact that they beat them with special teams. Miami goes out and swings another blockbuster trade. The Jets are about to get a blockbuster trade for Aaron Rodgers, most likely. So, yeah, on paper, the Patriots are the 4th team in the division. That's not controversial to say. What you got to do is that when the rubber meets the road in October and November, you need to make sure that you have added enough to not just be good, not just to be a little bit better, but to take what you've done with Bill O'Brien and the little additions you have and enhance them so that you can win 3 games at least in your division.
It's really well said. I mean, Devin McCourty went off and retired before he has to face Aaron Rodgers twice a year, before he's got to keep taking on Josh Allen and that loaded roster they have up top. So things have certainly shifted in the AFC East. But if we've learned anything in the past couple of seasons, and anything can turn like this, and the Patriots could be back on top. It just takes a couple of moves breaking right and maybe bringing in somebody like Lamar Jackson, as uncomfortable as it might be for young third-year quarterback Mac Jones. You are awesome. Your podcast is awesome. You cover this league. You have opinions. You're not afraid to say, there's a lot of New England people who cover teams favor the team. You're not that. You keep it really objective, and I appreciate you. I'm a big fan. Kari Thompson, WEEI in Boston, and check out his podcast as well. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me on. Keep keeping it real yourself.
Thanks, Khari. Love you. I'll talk to you in a little bit. We've got more here on the show. We are going to dive deep into the NFL. Are we going to the draft as a show? Are we going? I think. Maybe? Okay. I guess we're going. Texas running back Bijan Robinson. One thing about him is he could make drafting a running back in the top 10 cool again. Bring it back, people. We haven't seen a running back in the top 20 since Saquon went number 2 overall back in 2018. It's been forever. I think Bijan, he could be the one to change that. I know the running back position isn't valued the way it once was, but Bijan is special, okay? This is where, if I was Nate Burleson, I'd make some sort of Bijan mustard, something what he would do. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it straight with you. I bet you he's making teams consider throwing out the philosophy of devaluing the running back, going to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round about it, and grab him at the top here. Look at the resume. 2022 consensus All-American. He wins the Doak Walker Award as the nation's best running back. He finishes 2nd in the country with nearly 1,900 scrimmage yards, 3rd with 20 total touchdowns. I like his combo of, I would say, power and shiftiness, elusiveness. It's really drawing comparisons to the aforementioned Saquon and even the great Barry. I can compare people to Barry. Look, what did you just see there? That's unbelievable. And he's versatile. He can catch. He's a pass catcher. That's going to increase his value and make it easier to stomach taking him highly in the draft in Kansas City on day 1, Thursday, the big day. If there was ever a running back that would sneak their way into the top 10 in this era of football, it's Bijan, okay? He also caused some commotion, a little commotion, doesn't hurt anybody. Last week he posted this picture to his IG story. Take a look here. It shows his flight landing in Philly. I think we have it, no? In his pre-draft interview with the Eagles. Oh, here it is. Yeah. This post is from him, okay? The Eagles, of course, hold the 10th overall pick. Interesting. What are you doing in Pennsylvania? Just taking in the Liberty Bell, buddy? Or are you going in there to hang out with a team that just got rid of Miles Sanders in free agency? I'm just connecting things here. I'm just trying to, make sense of that. And I agree. And I'm careful and smart to put that together. The thought of, if you're an Eagles fan, the thought of him running behind that monstrosity of an offensive line, people are freaking out about this, and they should. There have also been rumors that Jerry Jones is like, you think you're leaving the state of Texas? That's not happening. But I don't know if he's going to last until where the Cowboys draft, and that's pick 26 this year. Do the Cowboys try to jump the Eagles for Bijan Robinson like Philly did to them for the Dallas Goedert reverso thing? That would be amazing, because that is some draft day rivalry drama that I would sign up for. But wherever Bijan ends up, the thing about him is that he's a star. The thing about him is that he's versatile. He's a special player, and maybe even a first-round pick in your fantasy draft. This year, I'm going to say it straight out the gates. He'll probably be, if he goes in the top, he'll be evaluated as a top 10 running back in the fantasy game. So, Bijan Robinson. All right, we've got Maya's top 5 Disney princesses. Ariel's not on the list. All right, we are back here on Up and Adams on a, is it Monday?
I think it's Monday.
I think it's Monday. Okay, we've got Maya in the building, came from Chicago. What was the best part of your flight?
Well, I don't really have one because I got delayed.
You got delayed. 4 hours at Midway Airport, y'all. This one survived with her 1-year-old sister. And I heard that you then got on the plane, ordered a cranberry juice, and passed out.
Yep, and then I just went to sleep.
Okay, so you're here, and we're going to have Paige, who's going to come on and talk about the draft, and I'm very excited. She's from Chicago, so we're going to talk about the Bears and potentially some stuff. So you're going to learn some stuff about the Bears today. But I asked you while I was in hair and makeup this morning, I asked you to come up with your top, because you want to go to Disneyland, and you know only good girls go to Disneyland, so we'll see. It's a very special experience. But we're going to do, in sports, everybody likes lists. People freak out about lists, okay? So I asked you to put together your top five 5 or 3? 5. Let's do 5. Your top 5 Disney princesses. Who do you have at number 5?
I have Rapunzel. She's not my favorite because she sorta doesn't. She combs her hair, and I don't really like how she combs her hair.
Got it.
Because I do not like combing my hair.
Great. That sounds like a really well-reasoned argument. It's better than some draft people that I see making claims online. Okay, how about number 4?
Number 4 is Cinderella because she lost her shoe, and it's sort of funky and silly.
She's funky and silly. Cinderella. Okay, got it. And number 3?
Belle because she marries the Beast and she makes friends with him, but that doesn't start at the first of the story, so it makes it more interesting.
But why do you like her? You like her because you like the Beast.
Yeah.
She's also smart, brilliant, well-read,
Yeah.
worldly, a dreamer, strong, brave.
Yeah.
Okay. At number 2, your number 2 favorite Disney princess is?
Aurora. Because she sleeps like so nice whenever, and then whenever she wakes up, she goes like, so yeah, and it's really.
Because she's a good sleeper.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet your mom over there wishes you were a little bit more like Aurora because you slept 1 hour last night, raging, eating cold pizza. Okay, Aurora, or what movie is Aurora in?
Aurora is in, Maleficent? No.
What movie is Aurora in? What? Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauty.
1960 called and asked for their Disney movie back. I don't know. I've never even seen that. Okay, and here it is, people. Stephen A. Smith, move over. Hot take artists everywhere. The number 1 Disney princess, according to Maya, is
Tiana.
Tell me about Tiana.
Why she kisses a frog.
And that's why we like her?
Because it's sort of
Maya,
interesting and it's funny.
I've kissed a million frogs, and you am I cool? Am I the coolest thing in the world?
Up in Adams, and how could she kiss a frog?
I've kissed frogs. I've kissed frogs.
Then
okay.
why are you not married?
Well, that was a cold. That was a sip of medicine I did not expect or need this morning. Really quick, the omission, Ariel. Ariel should be at the top of this list. This list is
Because Ariel is for babies, and that's why I am not a baby.
harsh, cruel world here, according to Maya. We've moved on to Tiana for kissing frogs. To kissing frogs and marriage. Goodbye. Oh my God. All right, let's do it up in Adam style. Paige saying, Bears fans, what do you want him to do at number 9 overall? Oh, well, listen, we just talked about Jackson Smith and Jig Butt last week. Him on the Bears. I like the sound of that for Justin Fields. And I like the sound of our next guest. She has made an impact at all levels. I'm talking CBS Sports, ESPN Phoenix, the Big Ten Network, and more. She's a Chicago girl, like myself, but unlike me, she is a CEO. She's president of the Draft Network, covering the next generation of players. And I'm here to use her for everything in that brain of yours. Paige Dimakos, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I gotta say, I love the princess segment, and I would really love to see Maya at the draft. And she's got a spot on the Draft Network team if she wants to come, make every draft prospect name their favorite princesses. I think that's great content. So, if she wants to meet us in Kansas City, I got a spot for her.
Listen, she's from Kansas City. She's a huge Chiefs fan. That's where her whole family is from, and I'll give her the offer. I think Drew Rosenhaus is representing her, so we'll have to get you some information.
I don't want to deal with him. We're good.
Yeah. Tiana, Aurora, Belle, Cinderella, Rapunzel. Can you believe this list? I think this is a hot take artist over here.
I think it needs to go on social to let people react to it because honestly, Aurora is astounding that she knows Sleeping Beauty. I was blown away. I was like, how did she watch Sleeping Beauty? I thought that was even for me at 33. So I'm impressed by her. And the kissing frogs thing, she was savage mode. I mean, I was like, okay. It's like that on a Monday morning.
That's what you're going to call it, savage mode. That her criteria for princesses is marrying the beast and kissing frogs. I don't know. But no
Very
Elsa and no Elsa, no Ariel. Ariel's for babies. I learned so much, but I want to learn more now. And let's get serious about this draft here because It's here. I can't believe it's so close. And we've been dipping our toe into the draft class pool here on the show. We're learning about new guys every day with all the work that you do. So this is your bread and butter. You've been digging into tape. You've been interviewing prospects. Tell me a little bit about the Draft Network and what they're bringing to fans this year.
Yeah, so we'll have, 350 scouting reports. We have everybody do, my group of guys that does the scouting that starts all the way back in the summer, right? And then they're in the middle of their cross checks right now, which effectively we do everything that a front office does, right? So I'm on the phone talking to my contacts, GMs, assistant GMs, talking to them, cross-referencing, taking players, moving them up and down the board, character flagging them, getting our own intel. So I kind of get to play GM at home, which is pretty cool for me. But we're not drafting one team, right? We're looking at it for all the teams and trying to take in as much information, then tell you guys, all the fans and everybody else about these prospects. And for me, like, I love, maybe it's the older I get, the more emotional I get. I feel like about this process, but I love watching kids have their dreams come true. Like, the draft's the best part of this entire sport to me because it's the best moment. It's so pure. They have so much fun. I get to be a part of these great moments with their parents and their sisters and brothers and whatever. And I love it. I think I love it a little bit more each year. And I always cry. Like, without fail, there's always somebody that makes me cry, like such an emotional moment, right? And because I know something about a kid or whatever, and it's always just like, wow, what a beautiful story. So who's gonna make me cry this year?
Call your shot. Who's me? Yeah, no, you know who's making you cry this year. Call your shot.
Bryce, for sure. Just because of the relationship and because I just love the kid. Like, I as somebody who this is my 10th draft now. So I've been through this quite a bit. He's just special. Yeah. He's just, the word generational gets thrown around way too often, but he is generational as a human being. Like, who he is, what he does, what he brings to the table. And as we all know, being a quarterback is up here, right? Tom Brady may not be the most athletic guy, but he was the best up here. He was the smartest guy. He prepared the best and he was ready the best. And that's the type of thing that Bryce does. And he's got that kind of Steph Curry, almost even more like Chris Paul facilitator point guard to bring it to basketball as a cross reference. But yeah, he's got an it factor. And he's done it, and he's done it at the SEC. And man, that Georgia defense is pretty much an NFL defense. And, he did just fine. So I think he'll be fine in the NFL.
So talk to people, I'm 5'0". So talk to the people that are going to say the height concern is a real thing. But do you just point to the it factor overcoming that? Do you point to the Russell Wilsons and the Drew Breeses of the world? What would you say to those people?
Yeah, I think the reality is I think he has answered it the best way that he can, which is my size is my size. I've always played football at this size, and he's always had success, right? At a certain point, there's not really much that you can do about that piece of it. If he was 6'2", this would be more than Trevor Lawrence discussion lock at 1, complete lock. Literally. When they left him, I talked to probably 5 different GMs, four scouts and 2 assistant GMs after Bryce's pro day. And I don't know if you guys saw Steve Smith Sr. literally salivating as he's talking to Bryce on television on NFL Network. But he's like, I got 3 routes that I watch guys throw. And he's like, I wanted to get out there. I wanted to be out there with you. Yeah. And Steve is very critical of quarterbacks, right? And to hear him talk like that, to hear the reaction afterwards, he's just special. And the if factor matters. And yeah, especially now, Kay, like, this isn't 1985, right? It's not the Bears back in the day where you could just do whatever the hell you wanted and out there and you could destroy a quarterback. It's very friendly, right? It's very friendly to the offense these days. And so if maybe back then, no, I don't think he could have played when Jim McMahon was playing, but I sure as hell think he could play now.
Yeah, he can certainly play. I mean, you're making your case for him to go number 1 overall. Everyone sort of says it's, everyone else I've talked to or heard from, it's a bit more of a crapshoot. It's a bit more of, you can make the case, and it's not a real sexy spot to have the number 1 overall pick, and you might want to trade down because the difference between them is marginal and negligible. You mentioned Chicago, so let's just go right there. You're from Chicago, I'm from Chicago. You mentioned 1985. We weren't alive when this all happened. Like, we need it to be better. How are you evaluating what they've got going on? Because I think Poles has crushed it so far.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Kay, and I'm sure you probably feel very similar, where it's like you're tempering your expectations because you're so excited about what you've seen, but it's so out of the norm from what we've seen in the past that you're like, is it real? I don't know. Can I believe it? Because the whole time you're sitting there, right, and they're talking, and Poles is talking about Justin Fields, and the entire time I'm going, okay, this is a plan, right? And I'm on the phone with my dad, right? And my dad is like, I can't believe they're gonna get rid of Justin Fields. I'm like, Dad, this is a plan, right? This is the plot, right? It's all part of the game. And he doesn't want to hear about the game. He just doesn't want to hear about Justin Fields leaving. And I'm like, listen, you got to drive that price up for number one. And man, to get DJ Moore in addition to all those picks, wow, I was really happy with what Poles did there. And to still stay inside the top 10, to gather more assets.
Yes.
At the end of the day, this is a team that needs to reset. They need a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And now I think they're in a good position to do that. So well done, Mr. Poles. We'll see how you do on draft night.
Yes.
And me and Kay can talk to you after that. We'll see how you do.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not pretend even when they're rebuilding, they can't blow away expectations. Look at the Giants last year. That was a team with new coaching, new everything,
Yep.
a lot of questions, and they got it done. So we'll see what they can get done. I want to talk about this, the mock draft simulator. So Hamilton was telling me about it. It's the Draft Network. It's your stuff. When can I try it out? What can I expect over with the Draft Network?
So it's up right now. We're beta testing. And so if you go on the draftnetwork.com, there's a header up at the top. You can click that link and get inside of there. But effectively, you get to play GM. Okay, so that's the cool part about the simulator is it simulates the draft like you're sitting there and you're going to get trade offers, right? So you're going to sit there and it's going to be like, oh man, I'm getting a trade. Who's the trade from? Oh, the New York Giants. They want to offer me this. It's computer to user trades, user to user trades. So for everybody that likes to be the armchair general manager, this game is for you.
Hey,
so,
this is awesome.
A lot of NFL fans. Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is so cool. Will you come on again when we have more time?
Absolutely. I'm all in.
Okay.
I could talk draft all day
Check
long
out.
and like literally anytime.
Amazing. Okay, everybody check out the Draft Network. We are off the show in 5 seconds. It's just that easy. I need a sleeper from you next time you come on, so we got to get Paige on.